Hi everyone, it's Andrew again from RC, and I'm just going to do a quick catch up of the little D90 that I'm working on. It is now approaching completion. We're a little bit away from that yet, but done some important stuff tonight that I wanted to get done, aside from eating Easter eggs and watching a film as I go along. I am finalising the exterior, and that mainly involves putting windows in. Can maybe just make them out there. They're a bit ugly, well, very ugly in fact, and not all that clear either, I'll be honest, but that's okay because the plan, as you can see, is to put stickers all over them. I have then sanded those stickers down because most of them have got really thick carrier films on that look a bit unsightly, so I've sanded them down, and in doing so obviously scuffed the lexan even more, which is fine. It's all in keeping with the look of the rig, and now I'm going to dirty the whole thing up. I'm going to start putting some mud, dust kind of stuff all over the windows. So what I've done, as you can probably see, is I have masked out the windscreen, the wiper pattern specifically. Now, all I've done to do this is take the wiper blades, which again this very highly detailed £45 eBay kit comes with, and roughly, obviously in conjunction with where the wiper blades fit into onto the bonnet here. So basically put the glass in the car with the tape on, and then just drew around it with a pencil. Yeah, it's not rocket science. So it's just regular masking tape. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take an old brush, which is a bit kind of splayed out and not very good. It used to be one of my favourite shovel brushes, like this, but over the years it has obviously puffed out to be something like this. Now what I might do, since it's really no use to me like this, is cut it. So if I cut the bristles off, it'll go stiffer, which I might just do. So I'm just going to stipple this stuff on. I can see it in the light, so I can tell it is going on, but it's not going on in a kind of brush streaky kind of manner. So that should, where are you? There you go. So that should have produced a kind of misty, translucent-y kind of effect. Okay, and finally, because it's getting late now, I've gone over the Jeep with some darker brown. So I've matte varnished the windows, and then I've gone over it with some darker sort of gingery brown. Where can you see it? There you go. So it's a bit, so they are now proper muddied up. The next phase is going to be a lighter brown, which I'm going to put on again with the stipple brush. Now I've got some pigment out of the bottom of the jar, and as you can see I've just put a bit on the corner there. See it in there? So this is going on much more distinctly than the previous coat. Just not in any great quantity, because I don't want it to be too visible. You know, it is very easy to overdo this sort of thing. I think very easy indeed. And as I say, I can always put a bit more on afterwards. Let's not forget that the windscreen, may not have had the wipers used for a little while. So let's just take this off now and see. I'll do it here so you guys can see how it looks. Oh, wicked! Got some fingerprints on behind. That's not very cool, is it? But yeah, I think you can catch the light there. You can see how the matte has defined the wiper lines without it being staggeringly obvious. So what I may do now is just put in and just build up a little bit of, just so that it's not completely mint. You know, it wouldn't be completely mint unless he's just washed the windows, which is unlikely. So it's not a very precise job, but then again, it doesn't need to be. It's kind of what you're trying to replicate is a not terribly precise finish. It is, as I say, getting late, and when I start putting finger marks, fingerprints on the inside of stuff, it means I'm working too fast and paint is not drying, and I'm handling things, or putting my fingers in wet paint and stuff generally, which is not a sign of getting tired. So time to stop, and it's gone 11:30 at night. So that's the windscreen. That'll do pretty much for now. Okay, so we have the finished product. It's assembled because we've had it out on the MCH this afternoon, and I'm just about to, as you can see, wash the truck. I'm in the process of doing so already in the acrylic wash, as I've shown in the previous video, which I'll put a link to. The paint I'm using is the one I'm waving now, which is Tamiya Flat Brown. I think it is XF10. There you go. Come on, camera, you going to focus on that? No, can't be bothered, can it? It is late, so why should it? Anyway, so what I've done is I've just started with the passenger door and rear section. So they've had a watered down version of this acrylic, just painted all over them. I'm going to obviously experiment a little bit with taking this back off, because the red's quite hard and shiny, so I don't know how subtle the removal of the wash will be. Here's my trusty cloth. Let's start trying to rub some of this off and see how it goes. So as I say, so you can see there straight away, it's just pulling it straight off, leaving the red underneath. So I'm not going to get much of a delicate fade like I had on the command pod the previous video was using. That was a nice matte paint, so it clings onto the acrylic better. This is a bit more of a shiny red enamel, so it does tend to just come off. There's no halfway house with this. So okay, let's do a little bit more and see how we get on. So yeah, as I'm doing this, what I'm thinking is, I mean, the good thing is this will tone down a lot of the metalwork, so the metalwork won't be quite as obvious, which is good because there's a lot of it. And yeah, so it might end up, we'll wait until this dries, because obviously once it dries off, then it goes a bit cloudy and a bit opaque. But it might be that I end up painting the whole thing in a wash and then just leaving the wash on. I may not take any of it off. I could thin it down a little bit. Can't thin it down too much because it blisters off the enamel. So yeah, these things are just trial and error. I just have to wait and see how they go. So let's see how this dries off, and we'll go from there. Okay, so it's drying off and it doesn't look too bad at all. The back section here, remember, hasn't had any treatment at all, has it? It's just been washed and it hasn't had anything removed from it. And you can see how the brown wash is kind of looking a bit rusty to me on that metalwork, which perhaps not ideal for the aluminium Land Rover, but it isn't too bad. The wash on the door here, look, see, I can take this off with my finger, which is perhaps a little bit more controlled than the cloth, which I think is probably more abrasive than my finger end. You know, so I can just cut back slightly. If I just do there under the window, do you see how it's just each stroke I'm getting a little bit more red coming through, and then I can stop. The trouble with the cloth is I can't really see what I'm doing too well until I take the cloth away. So that's an interesting idea. And my finger obviously doesn't go into the creases and so on, so I can leave some of the deposit in there. Yeah, and I think on the real thing it would be, you'd have patches of shinier paint, patches of cleaner paint, might have been handled or rubbed, or who knows. I'm really, I like these techniques because they're not uniform. You don't get a constant finish. I just don't think you get constant finishes in real life. It doesn't happen that way. So yeah, I might progress the rest of the truck in this manner. Let's get the whole thing washed, and we'll see how it all goes. I do like this kind of just the wash just drying on top of it. I might try and pick off some of the metalwork so it highlights it a little bit, but yeah, I'm quite liking that. And here she is, all done. There are lots of things I would continue tweaking if I was, well, frankly, if it was mine. The chassis hasn't been done at all, so I would certainly be weathering the chassis up. Maybe Terry will continue on and do that.
But certainly the exercise in weathering and salting, I think for me has worked. A lot of the bits you see, the bonnet vent and so on, don't fit properly anymore because there's that much paint in all of the holes, so there's a fair amount of tidying up to be done, but I'm going to call this done now. I've got other things to move on to. Yeah, I really like it. So thanks for watching, and questions below.